Okay, so sorry for the wait, everyone. So let's start. I think we can start with the webinar now. It's 10:05 and we have a sufficient number of participants, I think. So good morning to all. My name is Architect Tushar Mandal and I am a teaching faculty at the Periyar School of Architecture, New Delhi. I welcome you all to the 14th webinar in the Every Friday webinar series, a platform for young minds to express their ideas. Today's webinar will be discussing the correlation between gaming and architecture and will be presented by architect Anuj Kumar. So before introducing the speaker for today, I would like to introduce Professor Prakriti Mehta, who is a faculty at the NMIMS University in Mumbai. She is also a mentor of the Periyar School of Architecture, and I would request if ma'am could just speak a few words of motivation for all of us. Prakriti ma'am.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Tushar. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Good morning, ma'am. Yes,
Good
we are
morning.
audible.
Hi, and welcome to all of you. Join us today. I will my presentation. I believe that
Ma'am, I think your voice is breaking a bit.
just give me a moment.
Yeah.
Is it any better now? Manage to
Yes, you're
hear?
audible. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Um. Yeah. So I welcome everyone who joined us today at the Periyar School of Architecture. It's a it's a fairly new school, and we are expecting a lot of students this coming semester for bachelors of architecture and for other allied subjects like interior design, landscape design, etc. And I welcome architect Anuj Kumar, who will be talking about co-relating gaming and architecture. And I think it's a very interesting topic for all of us to gauge and understand that how we could understand gaming technology as a part of architectural tools. So I welcome everyone who's joined us today, and I would like Tushar to proceed with the webinar. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. So we also have with us architect Kamal Raj, who is the head of our school, and I welcome him as well to the webinar. So I will now introduce the speaker for today's webinar, architect Anuj Kumar. Anuj is an architect keenly interested in gaming. Having graduated from Vastukala Academy in 2021, he is currently working in synthesis architecture in New Delhi. Anuj also practices VR designing as a freelancer and has written a dissertation on the topic of gaming tools in architecture. Today, he will be talking about repurposing gaming technology for architecture, and I request him to begin his presentation now.
Thank you for handing over to me, Tushar. And first of all, I would like to take my time to thank everyone on behalf of Career College and everyone who helped me throughout this. And it's a really nice experience that people like us are getting to explain the topics that we are really keenly interested in. And such topics are need to be talked about and need to be expressed out. And thank you everyone for giving me this opportunity, and especially specifically thanking Periyar College for giving such a good platform to young individuals like me, and we are able to express everything that we want to throughout these presentations. So I would like to begin the presentation, and the presentation, as the title speaks, gaming and architecture. So what is gaming and what is architecture, and what are these two fields making together, and why are these two fields even talked about together? This is a really weird combination of two array of areas which don't really merge together. Gaming as an industry is all about playing games on virtual mediums, playing games around, and as the trend has changed, everyone just sits on the computer to play games. Whereas architecture is a really hands-on job. You have to go to sites, you have to build materials, check things, drawings have to be made. So what does these two uh, different fields have in common, and how do they overlap and create this Venn diagram, making what in the center? So this is the entire presentation that will go around and explore all the possibilities that we can come together with. Also, in this presentation, I would like to show you what are the technologies, or what and how it has advanced, that the today's gaming technology can be used in architecture, what those technologies are, and a lot of practical uses of those technologies, which helps us as architects uh, understand the spaces, build the spaces, design them, and overcome the obstacles we face really daily working on those plans and sections, as well as the other aspect of architecture where we have to kind of convince the client, or a set of clients, to understand the space, because we are used to taking around and understanding plans, 3D spaces, how voids work, how fenestrations are opened. But for a layman, all these terms are just a new way of telling of what a window is, what an opening is. But for them to understand a fenestration, kind of difficult. For them to understand a volumetric space analysis, it's difficult. So how can we make the client understand what we are designing, and just to make the project go easy? Also, this topic will touch a bit on the construction aspect of architecture, but that aspect in India is not that viable right now because of the technological constraints, and it's being worked upon. So I haven't added that part in the presentation. But let's start. So in the initiation of the presentation, I would like to first of all discuss what games are, because keenly we most of the people that are watching this presentation are architects or have some link to architecture, and we kind of know what architecture is, but what are games, and why are we talking about games, and there's a presentation going about. So games, as simple as that, is an activity which someone really keenly enjoys and is just for entertainment purpose. Right now, the gaming age earlier, which was considered to be around from 3 to 2025, but has been changed from 3 to 99 by going by the Steam data. So, what is it that has changed in the last few years, that the gaming age has increased so drastically? Like, people are so involved in games that they spend hours and hours of time. Me personally, have spent hours and hours of time playing games on virtual media. That the basic simple answer is that they create such a experience, such an area where we are able to find ourselves immersing into that space, into that design, into that environment around us, that helps us practically forget everything that's going on around. And this is what games do to you. This is the factor of addiction, or a factor of yet again going back to it. That's what the games cause. And that's not just the only factor. The other factor that keenly interests me in games is the kind of vivid way they can create a 2D plane seem as if it's 3D. The vivid way where they are able to make us believe that we are in Mesopotamia in 17th century, or or as far as the game goes, we are in some sort of a pyramid and experiencing some sort of a triple height area which doesn't even exist right now. So, and who are gamers? Gamers, if you are able to relate to any of the slide, any of the tiles on this slide, you are practically or probably a gamer. Or if, for that matter, if you have played Candy Crush on your mother's phone, so that's probably making you a gamer also. So, through this slide, I would like to explain how the technology has evolved, and how from a 2D plane of Tetris, we have come down to Fortnite, the clay models, and everything. So, to understand the design behind games, and what the technological advancements have done to it in the last 10 to 15 years, it's really massive. Looking at the first slide right now, we have the Tetris, which is the initiation of game, which is the basic game, and that's a 2D plane in which you had to juxtaposition different articles to erase out lines. Secondly, the kind of games that came in on the second tile is Contra. Contra started with creating a bit of shadow, giving it a bit of perspective. On third end, I think everyone knows Mario. So Mario giving it a bit of shadow, detail, that 3D look and feel. And then we went to the era of Grand Theft Auto, the game which really blew up the industry. So yeah, GTA coming from a plain 2D world to a basic 3D world, which just gives the player a feeling to walk around the spaces, go throughout the town, having a proper plan, areas, rooms which you can walk into. This game really changed the industry because till now you are just walking down a road, and now we have an entire city to play. On the second last slide, we have Assassin's Creed, a game which has been taking a toll on architecture ever since that it has come in. It's basically talking about all the medieval, uh, historic eras of architecture and all the areas which are existing in ruins or are just monument right now. They have created those areas and you can practically walk in and on those surfaces. They have created Parthenon, Notre Dame, and every other monument which you can think about in just a form of game explaining history throughout these games. And lastly, coming to Fortnite, which is kind of a new thing or a new take on high realistic games, which creates a clay model sort of a look and feel and gives everyone the experience of a free world, but it's more or less just a basic 3D plane. But the plan features and everything has been incorporated in such a way that everywhere you see, you are able to enjoy the part of it. So now coming back to what our core feature for this presentation is, that what are buildings and who's an architect. I think this is quite a self-explanatory answer over in this presentation. Talking about buildings and spaces are simple areas or volumes which are created by built and unbuilt mass, and who are architects, and we are architects who create this built volume. So, which again then brings back me to the question: what do we exactly have to do with games? Because that question hasn't been answered till in the previous slides I mentioned, as the age of people who have been playing games has increased from 3 to 99, and people who are trying to understand architecture is still beyond that. So why is it that the games have experienced so much of a drastic age gap, whereas architecture being also a similar sort of an area where we need to create experience is a bit difficult for people to understand. That's where the medium of technology and medium of making people understand what we are talking about comes in. So gaming and architecture, according to me, have the biggest correlation of experience. The experience that we walk the experience we get when we walk into an architectural space in game and in real life is kind of similar, is more or less overlapping with the kind of feeling that whenever we are in a claustrophobic space we try to get out, and that's what game designers also use. They try to make narrow corridors so that we walk off quickly and open into a bigger space. They try to create as realistic images as possible just to make the experience come out as real and so that we spend more time on the game. In this image, on the right side, it's Notre Dame as real and a photograph taken just before the tragedy struck. And on the left side, we have a digital graph of the entire thing. Left side has been documented so well that to 5 of a radius, this area was documented before the tragedy had struck, and that was all done just for a game, so that a few of these people who sit on their computers could experience it in full detail, could walk the buttresses of Notre Dame and stand on the roof of it to scan the entire city. Although that's not practically possible in real life. So this is the experience which brings down architecture and gaming together, and that is why this presentation is taking place. So now kind of the real presentation starts, where I will be sharing every technology and telling you about the different ways these technologies emerged and how they are being used into architecture or how they could be used into architecture. So right now, till these 4 5 slides were concerned, this was just to create the understanding of why we are talking about this topic. Now we will just dive right into the topic itself. So as we look into the evolution of games, so we have from Pac-Man to playing it in an arcade to modern day technology where we use a VR set and just sit on a slouch on our couches and play games for hours. These technologies have evolved straight up from a single layer of push buttons to the modern day era where we just get immersed into technology where we are not able to even imagine whether we are sitting in a lounge, a sofa, or maybe in some garden in Russia. So what these technologies have made understanding of space a bit confusing to the user at some point, where we can see videos of people trying to fall off of a bridge in their living room. This is all done with the help of these technologies, which are just coming in the next few slides. The first slide that we would like to talk about is virtual reality. So, what do I exactly mean by virtual reality? As the name suggests, it's virtual, but then again, it's reality also. So it's a kind of an oxymoron placed in this technology where we try to fool our senses and create a really virtual environment which helps us to make a makeshift belief of understanding a space, sitting in that space and moving around with our manual gestures. So virtual reality, how it works and what it is you wear some sort of a virtual reality glasses or goggles, Google Cardboards, uh, Oculus Rift. Any of these technologies can be used to wear just like your glasses, and it first of all fools your visual medium, which are your eyes, and secondly it fools out your ears because you are able to hear whatever is happening in that particular space with that sort of a depth. So this technology helps fool your two senses, which is as basic as your listening and your sight. The rest all senses are in your control, and this medium will just allow you to, uh, understand the space, get into the space better. And this is not a really modern technology. This was experienced as late as 1880s, where people were facing an issue like uh, they wanted to ride a cycle because that was a new thing at that time, and they wanted to ride it out in nature, but the entire surrounding was so cold for people in Canada. So what they came out with was this sort of a contraption, which can be totally termed as the first virtual reality medium. In this, they made a treadmill on which they used to run the cycle. They used a cinematograph to pull out their visual senses. They used a radio to stream out bird noises to make sure that the person is not a person is hearing bird noises when he's cycling down the street. And they used to create fan cold wind with a fan, thus fooling your touch sense also. So this is a much more advanced version of virtual reality, which I talked about in the previous slide. And this was the first virtual reality medium or a like false sense medium that emerged in 1880s for just for entertainment purposes, so that people like to cycle, so they can cycle inside their home and feel as if they are running outside. So this is the kind of experience that games give you, and this is the primary technology that I wanted to talk about. Secondly, when we will be coming to augmented reality, I hope every one of you has played Pokemon Go and tried to catch a few Pokemons out there on the street. And the other really easy and simple example is Snapchat, all the bunny filters and the dog filters that you apply onto our faces. That is basically augmented reality, as simple as it comes. Augmented reality is just an overlap of technological interface or a virtual medium onto the real life images. It uses a single phone or a basic phone like an Android or an Apple phone, which just basically needs to have a camera. And all you need to is turn on the camera and start a virtual medium. What what augmented reality means is it augments or it overlaps a layer of virtual medium on the real life images. So and as you turn on the camera, it sticks to the basic surface. It sticks to the area and understands where the rat was. So, for example, in this image, if I was supposed to turn, sorry, in this image, if I was supposed to turn the camera towards the right, the rat would stay in its place only. Same for this particular game. If this car is supposed to drive on this track and I turn my camera towards the right, the car would stay on the track itself. These technologies have evolved enough to know where our face is, know how to apply filters to our face, know how to make bitmojis appear on our tables, and thus thus can be and are used for architectural purposes also, to make clients visualize how the space will look, how the building will look, and how it will come forward. Augmented reality has also been used for construction. That is one topic that I left out because as I started the presentation, because that is one topic which is right now a bit haywire and a bit new, and they're trying to get the technology up and running. So what they're trying to do is they are basically trying to make a QR code or a benchmark, and instead of people and the site labor making the setting out layout, making the column markings or areas like that, they are making sure that the people can scan the QR code with their phone and then just walk down the street and see around what they feel like, what they experience, and where the first column footing will be, and that is all done using the GPS and the augmented reality system, so that you can actually on site see where the column is. And thirdly, we'll be coming to mixed reality. Mixed reality is just an overlap or an advancement of virtual reality. Virtual reality, as we know, is just fooling your eyes and your ears. But right now, we are trying to make sure that we touch that virtual stream also. We make sure we try and get that physical sense of understanding of movement also. In this particular technology, you are given two controllers which you can control with your hands and which can move around, and this model or the space moves around with that. In this way you can play shooting games and games which involve a sword or a shield of some sort to defend yourself or to attack someone. And this area of gaming is kind of the new trend or the new era of modern day games, where your physical well-being is also taken into care of, because you need to stand out and you need to play it in an empty room just so that you don't start hitting anyone. And so, just to overlap the last 5 7 slides that we have discussed, because it was too much of different type of realities that we talked about. Here's a small sum up on three different technologies that we talked about. It's virtual reality, augmented reality, and lastly mixed reality. So virtual reality is just a fully artificial environment which surrounds us. We wear a goggle and we see things around. Augmented reality is we have the phone, we have the camera, and it's an overlay of technology onto the real life image. Mixed reality is virtual reality plus the control of the area, the sense of touch that you can involve, and a more immersive experience into virtual reality, and you can move around in that place also. So these three technology, I hope everyone kind of understands and is clear with. Last technology that I would like to discuss, which was initially used for games and is now used for architecture, is drone and 3D mapping. So drone 3D mapping is as simple as the name suggests. You take a drone, you put the scanners or 4D scanners to it, and you send the drone out, and basically a system of autonomous drones scan the entire area to a level of detail which you decide upon. It goes from level of detail 0 to level of detail 10, and you can scan out the entire area. There is no need for sending out surveyors, sending out people, and this can then be overlapped with GIS and landscape data which the country already has, and thus making the site analysis a day's job than a month's job. So site analysis, this why was this used in gaming? Because when we play games, we need to create a terrain. We need to create an area which the developers were facing an issue with. Initially, if we have a area which spans around the city, and if you give an individual human, we try to find out patterns. We create some sort of a area which will keenly repeat somewhere else. So that's why what they decided was they will just take an area of land, they will scan it and use it as the base map of the game. That is where this technology initially started to come in, and now is being used for scanning buildings, for scanning sites, for scanning areas into the architectural world also. Now coming back to architecture, and now that we have understood the technologies in architecture, why are we limiting our flow of work from drafting to AutoCAD, AutoCAD SketchUp, Revit, and then back to Lumine and Twinmotion? Why are we not taking it beyond it Why are we not representing it beyond the other ways of entertainment and other ways of uh, letting the client know what we are designing? Why are we not designing the spaces in 3D? Why are we not designing the spaces as they are meant to be? So that's the kind of constraint that we are getting it. And is it just a constraint which the softwares allow, the financial constraint, or is it a matter of factor that we are not aware about? So that's the kind of topic that I wanted to discuss about. And in the next slide, so yeah, right now what I have done is I have just classified architecture and gaming into simple bits and have tried to link up what part of gaming we are taking and what part of architecture we are linking it with. So for gaming, I have divided into an audio and video format. Because video is what we see and audio is what we hear when we're trying to create on a computer. Whereas when we are talking about architecture, the initial phase is designing. You design the space, you roll out the services, you make plans, elevation. Second part is you kind of convince the client. You present it to him, him or her, you present it and you discuss the constraints which the client says and all the design presentations that happen. Lastly is the construction phase. So right now for the presentation, I have taken the video part and overlapped it with designing and presentation. Construction, as we discussed when we were talking about augmented reality, is kind of a technology that is still into development, and that's why I didn't put it in the PPT. So before we go ahead, this is the kind of stuff that we can come up with when we talk about gaming and architecture. This is the entire map of Paris as set by standing on a tower. And this is all when the Renaissance period was happening. And these all buildings have been mapped and been virtually created. And this is true to scale over an error margin of 1 meter. So can you imagine the entire city has been documented so well that the error margin they could come down to the error margin of 1. And imagine that entire space in 1700. So this game is a really immersive, which I really love to play, and this has given the opportunity for me to walk on Notre Dame, go inside pyramids, as well as be on the top of Parthenon. This is the real image of Notre Dame, and this is how much in detail they were able to create it uh, in a virtual medium. And these are all basically done with the technology of your 3D scanning, which is drones and 4D scanning, which takes into timing also. I will show you a few more areas of the PPT which are really interesting. So in this image, you are able to see the amount of detail the buttresses as well as the pitched roof and the gargoyles have captured in the virtual medium. And now I will overlap it with the real image. As you can see, the entire details which were demolished also, or which are not present right now, but were existing there because of some documentation purposes, have been captured. These gargoyles are not really existing right now, but they have been captured, and since they were in photographs and are half broken or some sort of catastrophe struck them, they have been brought back to life through a virtual medium, which can be used for tourism factor also, which we will discuss in the presentation later on. So this entire slide shows different areas of different games which they have documented well enough and created an overlap of a storyline which the game required. They have put down every single detail and reimagined as if we are existing in the Renaissance period. So now question arises, now we know about what gaming is, now we know about what gaming and architecture have in common, what are the technologies that have evolved games to bring it to a level that we know as of now. So what in this entire area is stopping us from our studios looking like this, or from us going to a site like this and bringing out the data which comes out like this? So how do we go from here to there? That's the constraint that we are facing right now. How do we go from a basic site and make it out to a new area or a new virtual medium, which we can express our designs through, which we can express our intentions for? So how do I go from a individual site to the 3D model? How do I go from an individual site to a finally client presentation where the client can see what he's going to build and the entire immersive experience he can also experience before the entire site has been built. So how do we go from real to digital? So these are the aspects we are covering. We are covering the designing aspect, the construction, the presentation aspect, and lastly, the documentation aspect of it also. For designing, there are apps and there are technology as simple as the canvas, and this is a basic area standard. This is not that expensive if the expensive part of it is also a concern factor, because we need to check whether the technology we are creating is easily accessible as well as it's monetary also, and we don't have to spend that much of an amount creating or investing into it just for a small area. So this technology allows you to adapt it to an iPad, and for that matter, the newer versions are compatible with Android also. And Canvas makes scans the entire area and creates a raw file, somewhat looking like this, which, when translated into the software, can come out and become a CAD or a SketchUp file, which is practically a 5-10 job, because all you have to do is make a video out of it, and rest all Canvas will do with this technology attached to your iPad. So these technologies are readily available and are being used, and I'm glad to tell that I have been working with a small firm near my house, and they have used the same technology for a few residential projects. And now they were doing a project in Jaipur, which is the mall which I can't name because of the confidentiality reasons. And they had used the entire 4D scanning technology to make sure that the entire area of Jaipur Mall, they had gotten the entire data in 3D for themselves to work on, and it was a comparatively 40 to 50 GB file, which specifically had to work on a system. These technologies are still in development, but yes, from going from a 100 to 150 GB game back to a 40 GB file, which talks about LOD 10, level of detail 10, to understand the entire nooks and crannies of a project. These technologies have come a long way and are helping us, people like us, to design spaces really easily. Then comes the area of 3D drone mapping. As we discussed when we were talking about the gamers need to realize the entire scale, the area, and how all of these spaces are coming along, and how well the areas are. So, for the 3D mapping technology, what they are doing is they are overlaying it with GIS, with the live data the country has, and they are overlapping the area to get proper site analysis, in which hard to reach places are also easy now. They use autonomous drones and a set of drones which can re-visualize the entire area within a matter of hours. As you can see on this particular image, this is an LOD 5 level model, which brings out the mass, bring out where the trees are, and even small details of pathways and car trails. This all is being done within a span of hours, because the data which the drone carries, you just have to plug it into a software and render out the entire area for you. This technology is also used by Google, so that's why you are able to see the entire area on Google Earth right now. And India, I'm glad to hear that India is also coming out and accepting these mediums. That's why if you go on Google Earth right now, you will be able to see Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium, Qutub Minar, and a few other monuments and areas of interest on a 3D medium. Lastly, this I think a lot of you might have heard about, and it's the application of mixed reality into architecture. So for mixed reality, what we do is we can design into it, we can make client presentations into it, and a lot of new technology and a lot of new software is also coming along. Prezi being one of the good softwares, which is an Indian make software. The name is Trezi, and I would like to give it a special mention in this presentation, because that particular software is an Indian make software and is bringing out good changes into the industry. It's software that allows you to do client presentation as well as have the area entirely to yourself and the client's understanding also, and you can change it in real time. So, Oculus or Vive, Oculus Rift is one of the pioneers in this industry, and Vive being initially created by HTC and now been overtaken by Enscape, these are the two or more similar technologies. They have controllers, they have virtual reality glasses, and all you have to do is initially start your model and then import it to your controller. So now, when once the model is in the controller, you get an interface like this. These are the two controllers which are virtually in your hand right now, and you can do all sort of stuff. Which mark out issues, you can point out where the issues are arising. You make amendments into your model, which then will be reflected directly into your CAD model, CAD plan. And lastly, you can start taking images. You can take a rundown to your space. You can know whether it's seeming claustrophobic, whether the portions are off, and all of this even before the area initially is starting to evolve with all sort of computational programs and other parametric designs that are coming in. These technologies are kind of an essential thing to understand because not all parametric designs can be understood on paper, and a lot of volumetric designs are now being developed only in 3D. So if software is developed only in 3D, if a design is developed only in 3D, you have to understand it also in a medium which is capable of understanding the design or making us understand the design. So that is where Oculus Rift or Vive using mixed reality comes in. Now coming to the aspect which is really uh, like keen to my heart is how you present your architecture, how you present your designs, give client presentations, get approvals, and how you go about giving uh, a sort of a presentation which the client understands and gives a go ahead or a okay, or as simple as that is that they understand the architectural terminology at the end of the project and how they go and understand that. So so using a VR headset, it's as simple as using a Google Cardboard. If you have heard about it, it's nothing with just my phone. And right now, I would like to show a small demonstration of this particular technology on my phone itself. So I've been using this for quite a few amount of time, and this technology is as simple as creating your models into Lumia and rendering it into a VR medium. So this exactly particular image is what the render outcome looks like, and then you are able to create some sort of this medium to show out to your clients. This exact space which you see on your screen can now be seen on my phone, which you can go about and move in the entire area, and the client gets a total immersive experience of how the entire area looks like. What are the flooring options? What are the fenestrations? What are the openings? What are the paneling design? This is a particular small experience which on a simple phone you can give it to the client, and even the client can understand how the area it will look like. This is just a small example because I currently am working in architectural interior firm. So this design is just a small example of what this technology is capable of at a low cost of just your phone and application. uh, is really viable and a practical option to make clients understand what type of space, what type of area, or what type of design you are going out to. Then comes the ER-enabled app, the app that I explained to you with the medium of Pokemon Go or Snapchat. This uses as simple as this. So on the right image, you can see this particular magazine has been mapped so that whenever it's looked into using a using an AR enabled laptop or a tablet, it will show out the 3D image of this particular building. So they just need an app. So this app maps out this image, and as soon as you take the image over to the particular, uh, as soon as you take the image over to the particular image, it starts to show up a 3D model. The practical application of this is for bigger sites, for areas which you need to walk down to or you need to go around. So, for example, we talk about this particular site where they are taking your phone with them and they are on a landscape visit, and they are able to see how the design has been evolved. It's an existing site. Now they are doing the finishing and the remodeling of that particular site. And what they have done is they have made 3D model according to it. They have placed all the areas, and now the client can walk on. And just because of the augmented reality part, they can see through the phone what is going to be. One good example of this uh, one good example of this I will be sharing next part where we discuss the documentation part. Now we come to one of the bigger mediums, which is the experience centers, which they create. This I am quite sure is really an expensive method to show out their design, and the technology that still needs a bit working on, but is kind of developed enough so that you can walk actually inside the area. You are trying to go around the area and see what the spaces are, what the areas are. This is an image that I've used from a gaming clip only, but because real architectural stuff is happening on this, but it's kind of implemented. Tushar, am I audible? I think someone is trying to say something.
Yeah, just give me like a moment.
Yeah.
Anuj, you'll have to unmute yourself once because I muted all participants. I think someone was. Yes, so now you can continue.
Yeah. So coming to the MR experience centers, these experience centers kind of come at an expensive cost, but as the projects will go on, as the technology will develop, I think the prices for this will also drop down. And right now, these experience centers are a bit of a hassle to get into, and the models need to be really detailed. The area scans need to be really detailed to the point where, since you are walking and going around the entire site, so this is kind of a technological area where you need to really understand the 3D modeling of it also. But this area is really interesting and is being worked on. It's not complete right now, but it's the area which is most close to uh, the real experience. This basically you are just walking on a octagonal uh, treadmill, and you are able to see what all the areas are, how you can will go around, how many steps will be there, how the heights will hold out for a layman to understand all these areas before even the building is built. It's kind of really interesting to see. Now we will talk about the documentation part. In this particular, this is the last sector of technological use of gaming to architecture that we're talking about. We're talking about virtual tourism, heritage conservation, and disaster management documentation. More or less everything falls into a similar strata, but initially we'll talk about virtual tourism. So virtual tourism in today's area is also being used by a lot of architects as well as countries due to the COVID situation. And lastly, a lot of hotels and resorts have started using virtual tourism. What they're trying to do is they're trying to use these technologies for you to understand spaces in resorts, hotels, areas of keen interest. And recently, the Colosseum was also virtually documented for you to experience it on or your VR or MR technological equipments. So right now, you can go into the Colosseum without even buying a ticket by paying the VR company a bit share of their money, and you can go into the Colosseum from your home. So these areas are kind of crucial, and this is just an overlap of VR and AR technology in real life, and you are able to sit on your home couch and go to the Colosseum or maybe Parthenon, because Parthenon has also been documented really well. They are trying to create augment. They are trying and are working the beta version of Parthenon AR technology. So basically, you use your phone, you use it to scan the particular initiation point, and then it uses the GPS, your phone location, and the phone angle to understand where your phone is, and shows you the exact overlap of Parthenon and how it used to be earlier in the prehistoric era. So right now, as you can see, even the lines match up, the columns match up, and this is the kind of accuracy you can come up with in AR set. Lastly, this is one of the really keen rendering softwares which I talk about. Although this doesn't really have to do with two core architecture of designing and everything, but this talks about the rendering aspect of it, the achieving reality in your renders. Uh, so this is a company which has been keenly working in all the set technologies above. Right now, Quixel is taking part with Epic Games, which is the same company which provides you Unreal Engine and all the other softwares, including Twinmotion, to create high realistic renders with ease. So Quixel is one such off-branch of that particular company, which deals with scanning and making real texture maps for all random and arbitrary places which we didn't really have plans for. So in this particular software, what they have done is it's running on a beta and an alpha version right now, but it's not really complete. But what they are trying to do is they are trying to take real samples. Just for example, rock image, this rock image, it's not a real image. It's a computerized by and processed by a computer, uh, and it looks as if it's totally real because they have taken it into account, and they have scanned the entire area just so that you can come up with all the real texture maps, all the bump maps, and all the area maps, so that your albedo is there, your normal is there, and all these areas with the base 3D model that they have scanned and provided for free for a lot of you to use. This on the left side is a render of mine, which I had given it out to a client who was trying something. So on the bottom you can see, as well as on these mirrors, you can see the a high definition of reflection which was achieved using Quixel technology. So Quixel is trying to scan small stuff, give it to you in parcels, and then you can use it into your model to achieve high realism. This is also the part of 3D scanning technology that was used for architecture and for creating games, and is now being used to do core architectural renders just to make them look a bit more. And with this topic, I would like to kind of end my presentation. And thanks for playing and thanks for understanding all the topics. I hope it was quite informative for you all to understand what uh, gaming architecture is, what the overlap of these two industry has to do, and how we can benefit and the clients can benefit out overlap of two technologies.
Okay, thank you, Anuj, for the talk. It was quite engaging and elaborate. Participants can now ask questions, and if you have questions, you can either unmute yourself and ask directly, or you can just post them in the chat box here. Yeah, so if anybody has a question, then please go ahead and ask. And I think in the meantime, let's say that I might, because I also have a few questions regarding this topic, so I'll just begin the
Sure.
conversation, and hopefully we'll have more participants coming in. So Anuj, you talked about quite a few technologies, but then one major, I think, virtual reality or mixed reality option that has come up in recent times that has become a big buzzword is the metaverse. So so what are your views on this, and what do you think, does metaverse have any sort of implications on our field, like not just in gaming but our field of architecture?
That's a really interesting question, which actually I had a slide on in the presentation, but it was going too much in depth, and it was an overlap of social media with architecture, with technologies, and it was too much chaos right now for me to let everyone understand. But my views on metaverse is that it's an upcoming revolution which will create virtual spaces that I think people will start to live in and will start to experience, since we are getting so much into technology, and it's a really nice scope. But right now, since it's in the initiation phases, it's in start phases, uh, I think it will take a bit of time, but this technology will be used, and for sure is a benchmark that will be set against for us. And as architects, right now we are a bit of architects. Few architects are designing spaces for metaverse also, and I think this will be going to be a new thing where architects are designing for metaverse as well as for the real life also, and trying to replicate as much detail in metaverse as we can. And this is a really nice opportunity for all the people who are into gaming or understand the 3D world much more. That's really nice.
Okay, thanks. So we do have a few questions. So Shubhajit Bishwas is asking that how can we incorporate these technologies in architectural education?
That that's a really good question, because I myself faced the exact kind of same issues. Because right now we max to max, as we are in college, since I really recently passed college, we are able to uh, you know uh, go to college, and then you have to make 3D models, and these things take time. These for sure things take time, and we don't have that much of resource available at a college student level. So, in architectural education, these areas, from a teaching point of view, can be easily used so that you can go to spaces which really. So, for example, you have to do a site visit for, let's say, Sarojini Nagar. So, I had my UD done for Sarojini Nagar. And if just imagine for a brief span of time that if Sarojini Nagar was well documented enough and was all mapped into 3D, I could have my VR glasses and could be roaming around in Sarojini Nagar 2 in the night, just from my couch. And the areas I could see and understand at and in the night are much more different at what you can see in the evening. Because the evening, all the shops are open, everything is a hustle bustle. At night, it's an open space which you can really look into. So these areas are viable, these technologies are viable, and the modern day scanning will only come to a conclusion of this thing. If we have much more scans, then it can be much more easily.
Okay. So we have another question by Prakriti Mehta. She asks, you spoke about the rules or parameters to define the gaming challenge. Do you feel in the future no play gaming theories like Conway's Game of Life, which is a self-evolving model, can be seen, where the rules are set and left for the game to evolve on its own, just like in how it happens in cities?
Yes, this kind of talks about that movie in which Ryan Reynolds was also playing the good guy. I think this question relates to that also, that evolution of games, and we're talking about artificial intelligence overlapped with the gaming technology. If I am able to understand the question right. So in this particular area, if we let the games develop, that's the kind of stuff that metaverse is doing. So this question's answer, I think I cannot answer, because having not researched that much about metaverse, and the metaverse being singularly right now getting developed, this question is like a new thing which we can ponder upon. But I am sorry to say that I don't really have a clear and solid answer. But this thing is true, and this is like an overlap of artificial intelligence on your metaverse.
Okay, thank you. So, if there's anybody else who wants to ask a question, then please feel free to go ahead. You can also unmute yourself and ask. You don't necessarily have to type it out if you want.
Hello.
Yes,
Hi.
hi.
Hi, sir. I had a question that you talked about the gaming and architecture and about the metaverse that we totally understood. But
Okay,
being a
so
student in
sorry,
architecture,
sorry to interrupt, but if you could just give like a brief introduction about yourself and then ask the question.
my name is Shrish. I'm an architectural student in Gateway College of Architecture, and currently I'm in fourth year. So
Okay.
I wanted to move my, like, after fifth year, I also wanted to move towards this gaming and metaverse thing. So you talked about, you related things about the gaming and architecture, about everything. But what I want to know is like what to do after, like how to go into this field. What do I have to do? Like, is there some coaching types, or there's an institute, there's some degree? I don't know anything about this.
Oh, okay.
If you
So
could
there,
guide me something.
to be very true, I'm not the correct person to guide you into the field, but as far as my research went, and I know about the field, a lot of dissertations have been done on the same topic, as well as a lot of side research is going on. That's the first way that you can start. Otherwise, a lot of industries over there are gaming architects. So, what are gaming architects? That topic I didn't really want to cover it out in the PPT because it's really, really vast. Is gaming architects are also there. So basically, what they do is they learn about how to develop games, and they are architects also. So they have the strata, they have the understanding of both the spaces, how you design some stuff, how you uh, understand a space. So when you merge out both of these two, then you can start there. And gaming architects, I had the opportunity to talk to a gaming architect while I was doing my dissertation, and what he had done was he had learned gaming, developing game development using Unity and using Unreal Engine on his own, and then he had gone for internships in gaming companies which develop and scan all of these softwares. And later on, he became a gaming architect and a kind of a profession which rolled out of this. So what his job scope is, that he basically scans and checks and goes back to history, and he worked on Assassin's Creed Unity. So I had the opportunity to talk to him. So his entire work scope is just to check the data. He sets out the data and creates the entire cityscape. So for example, if you're walking into an area, and just like an example I would like to share, if you're in air, the entire seating lobby is all set up so that you can just go around, have a few coffee and area, and buy a few stuff. Then when you are going towards the airline, it's really narrow corridor so that you just rush out. So this is an example that he was given to me by him, and this is the kind of stuff they do in and put it in games also. So if you have to reach to a boss fight, it's really narrow street which just leads you into one direction, and you know there is something climactic going to happen, and then the boss fight opens to a bigger area. So this is the kind of stuff the gaming architect does, and the way to go about it is, I think, you work onto Unity, or you work on Unreal Engine, then probably try for internship. And there are few courses around also. Give it talk about gaming architecture in abroad university. I think I
Okay.
answered.
Yeah, okay. So thank you, Anuj. And I think we have now reached the end of like the time that we had. So with this, I'd like to close today's webinar. So before closing, I would like to inform everyone about the Every Friday webinar series that is being organized by the Periyar School of Architecture. The webinars are a platform for young professionals to express their ideas and are aimed at students and young architects. So I would also like to announce that all subsequent webinars after this will be held over Zoom. We will be migrating off of the platform that we used to use, and now we'll be hosting all those webinars over Zoom. With this, I would like to thank Anuj for the wonderful presentation, and I also would like to thank all the participants and the senior academicians present here. Please have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Tushar. Thank you very much.